What's going on, guys? It's Swim here, and in today's Warframe video, we are going to have a look at the newest Kuva weapon, the Kuva Sobek. In this video, we are going to have a look at everything that this weapon has to offer, and then I will be testing this weapon out in both the Simulacrum and Steel Path. Before we get into it though, if you did enjoy this video, then please help me out by liking the video, sharing it around with your friends, and subscribe, as I do post a wide variety of videos every week. With that being said, let's get straight into it. The Kuva Sobek is the Kuva variant of the Sobek shotgun that can pack a serious punch. Looking at the stats of this weapon, the Kuva Sobek is an automatic shotgun with a max magazine capacity of 20 shells, and it has a 2.1 second reload speed. The Kuva Sobek also has a base critical chance of 21%, while the critical multiplier is at 2.3 times. Additionally, the status chance is at 21%, and the weapon's primary damage output is impact, which with the new status rework temporarily causes enemies hit to flail backwards and stagger. Since this is a Kuva weapon, I chose Toxin as my bonus element, but you could choose any other element that you want. The first build we have is a Viral and Hunter Munitions setup. Starting off, we have Galvanized Hell for that plus 110% multi-shot, and on kill plus 30% multi-shot for 20 seconds. Moving on, we are also using Hunter Munitions for a 30% chance to apply slash on critical hits. We then have Galvanized Savvy for the 80% status chance and on kill plus 40% direct damage per status type affecting the target. We also have Critical Deacceleration for a 200% critical chance and a negative 20% fire rate. Next up, we are using Shotgun Elementalist for the 90% status damage and 60% magazine capacity. We're also using Primed Ravage for the 110% critical damage. Next up is Frigid Blast for the 60% cold and 60% status chance. The last mod we're using is Primed Point Blank for the 165% flat damage. When it comes to the arcane, I chose R5 Primary Merciless. This arcane procs on kills, giving us an extra 30% damage that stacks up to 12 times. If you wanted to, you could swap out Primary Merciless for either Primary Deadhead or Shotgun Vendetta, but I will be using Merciless for the bonus reload speed. On the left hand side, we have a 63% critical chance and a 4.8 times crit multiplier with a 50.4% status chance. We are also dealing mainly viral damage, which does times 1.5 damage to the Orokin faction and increases damage done to health up to 325%. The last build I have for you is a cold and corrosive combo. Starting off, we have Galvanized Hell for that plus 110% multi-shot and on kill plus 30% multi-shot for 20 seconds. Moving on, we are using Shell Shock for the 60% electricity and 60% status chance. We then have Galvanized Savvy for the 80% status chance and on kill plus 40% direct damage per status type affecting the target. We also have Toxic Barrage for the 60% toxin and 60% status chance. We also have Critical Deacceleration for a 200% critical chance and a negative 20% fire rate. We're also using Primed Ravage for the 110% critical damage. Next up is Frigid Blast for the 60% cold and 60% status chance. The last mod we're using is Primed Point Blank for the 165% flat damage. We are using R5 Primary Merciless again for the extra 30% damage that stacks up to 12 times. Over on the left hand side, we have a 63% critical chance and a 4.8 times crit multiplier with a 75.6% status chance. This time we are dealing mainly corrosive and cold damage. Corrosive does times 1.5 damage to the Grineer faction and temporarily removes up to 80% of the target's armor value. Cold causes enemies to have slower movement and can freeze enemies in place for 3 seconds. With that out of the way, let's head on over to the Simulacrum. We are now in the Simulacrum and we are going to be testing both of these builds on level 160 Steel Path modified Corrupted Heavy Gunners. I will be testing both builds out with and without Warframe abilities to show you the minimum and maximum damage output. For now, let's focus on the Viral and Hunter Munitions build. The Kuva Sobek is a fully automatic shotgun, so just aim at the enemies and hold down the trigger. This weapon is a decent upgrade to its predecessor, and with the bonus element from the Kuva Lich system, you can make some pretty good elemental combinations. I chose Toxin for the corrosive and viral combinations, but electricity and heat also work really well with this weapon. Another thing to note is that this is a single target weapon, so its crowd control capabilities are very slim. We are also using galvanized mods, so it will take some time to reach the maximum amount of damage that this build offers. Once the galvanized mods are built up, you can see the total amount of damage that we can deal. Now there's nothing fancy about the Kuva Sobek, but that doesn't really matter when you can destroy anything in front of you. Here is some footage of the build in action with a few warframes that synergize well with this build. Now let's move on to the last build. We are versing the same level 160 Steel Path modified corrupted heavy gunners. This time we are focusing on the last build, which is a corrosive and cold build. This setup does take a little time to build up and sustain damage, but when you get past that, you will see how much damage can be dealt. When it comes to arcanes for this weapon, primary merciless and primary deadhead do work, but I would suggest that you run shotgun vendetta if you have it. If you get a kill within 5 meters of a target using this arcane, you will gain 180% multi-shot. This arcane would have boosted the damage even further with these builds, but unfortunately I do not own a high enough rank of this arcane, so I went with primary merciless. We're also using galvanized mods once again, so it will take some time to reach the maximum amount of damage that this build offers. You definitely need to try this build out, just have a look at this damage. Here is some footage of the build in action with a few warframes that synergize well with this build. Now that the testing is out of the way, let's head on over to a Steel Path mission to see how this weapon performs. We are now in the Void on Mott, Steel Path of course, and let's see what this weapon is capable of. Overall, I think that the Kuva Sobek is a really good weapon that can output some serious damage, but it does have a few flaws. The Kuva Sobek could be improved in a number of ways, but I think that what we got isn't terrible. If this weapon had an extra 1.5 meters of innate punch through, then this weapon would have been a lot better. An alternate fire could also make a vast improvement to the Kuva Sobek, since it is a single target weapon, which as you can see doesn't crowd control really well. With the main issues aside, I think this weapon can still tackle early game and basic Steel Path content, and if we were talking Rivens, then I would suggest to try to roll for either damage, multi-shot, critical damage, or punch through. Alright, let's see how this weapon performs against an Acolyte. This time it is Angst. Alrighty guys, so that is the end of the video. I hope you all have enjoyed. Please let me know down below what you think of the Kuva Sobek overall. As always, if you enjoyed this video, then please consider liking the video, sharing it around, and also subscribe to the channel, as I do post a wide variety of content every week. If there's anything I can improve on, then please let me know down below. Thank you all so much for watching. It's been Swim guys. Later.